Welcome to Tennessee's at-home learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all of our 7th graders out there, but any child is welcome to tune in. This lesson is the 3rd in our series. My name is Mrs. Alley, and I'm a 7th grade teacher in Tennessee schools. I'm so excited to be your teacher for this lesson today. Welcome to my virtual classroom. Today, we will be learning about early American civilizations. Before we get started, to participate fully in today's lesson, you will need the following materials: something to write with and a surface to write on, paper, and the 3-column chart from our previous lessons. If you didn't see our previous lessons, you can find them on the Tennessee Department of Education website at www.tn.gov/education. You can still tune in to today's lesson if you haven't seen any of our others, but it might be more fun if you first go back and watch our other lessons, since we will be talking about things we learned previously. Let's begin. Today, we are continuing our journey back in time to learn about early American civilization. We have learned many details and facts about the geographical features of Mesoamerica and South America. Today, we're going to focus specifically on one of the 3 early American civilizations, the Maya. Let's review what we added to our 3-column chart so far, looking just at what's under the column for Maya. Under the Maya column, you should have Yucatan Peninsula, diverse landscape, water on 3 sides, rainforests, dry areas, and descendants still living among the ruins. Make sure your chart is up to date, and we will continue adding to the Maya column throughout today's lesson. Today we're going to begin reading a text called The Golden Age of the Maya, where we're going to learn how the Maya civilization was organized. We will also learn how that organization supported the development of the Maya Golden Age throughout a very large and diverse region. The big question we want to answer by the end of the lesson is, how did the Maya society adapt and thrive in such a large and diverse region? Now I will read aloud the first half of this text. Please listen carefully as I read, and think about how you might answer our big question. Focus on how the Maya adapted and thrived. The Golden Age of the Maya. Desiree Charnay was a French archaeologist who visited the jungles of Central America in the 1800s. Do you remember what we said an archaeologist does? Great. They study the remains of past civilizations. Listen to what he wrote in his journal. As you listen, think about what it would be like to be there with him. The rain is incessant. The damp seems to penetrate the very marrow of our bones. A vegetable mold settles on our hats, which we are obliged to brush off daily. We live in mud. We are covered in mud. We breathe in mud. The ground is so slippery that we are as often on our backs as on our feet. Charnay's quote ends with, "The ground is so slippery that we are as often on our backs as on our feet." What do you think Charnay meant by these words? The climate was so wet, it made the ground very muddy. Everyone slipped around as they tried to walk. Can you imagine what that looked like? Imagine slipping and sliding through mud all day long. Imagine constantly swatting at mosquitoes. Imagine pit vipers and tarantulas resting in trees overhead. Imagine constant heat and humidity. Mud, poisonous creatures, and muggy weather were all part of Charney's experiences in the rainforest. Does this sound like an adventure you might want to experience? I wonder how many of you have thought about a future career that might take you to a rainforest. I wonder what made Charney want to go to Central America in the first place. Let's read more to find out. Charney visited Central America after reading a travel book written by John Lloyd Stevens and illustrated by Frederick Catherwood. He was fascinated by the book's illustrations of ancient Maya ruins. Catherwood drew pictures of vine-choked temples poking through clouds. His drawings of carved masks looked like real people. Stevens and Catherwood portrayed abandoned cities swallowed up by dense forests. Their book captured the imaginations of people from all around the world. Who were these Maya? People wondered. I love how the author describes the vine-choked temples and how abandoned cities were swallowed up by dense forests. What do you think he means by this? Because the author uses this kind of language, it's easier for me to imagine these Maya ruins covered with vines and large parts of the cities covered in all the things that grow in the forest. I imagine it may have been hidden and not easily seen. Why do you think Charney and others were so curious about the Maya? I'm thinking they may have wondered what happened to the people who used to live in the ruins and in the cities. This would make me curious too. I'm going to move on to read another section of the text. Follow along and listen carefully as I read aloud. A culture flourishes. The Maya were one of many groups of people who settled in Mesoamerica. They formed agricultural villages at least as early as 1800 BCE. Over time, they established a civilization. As many as 5 million people inhabited an area that stretched from the highlands of Guatemala to the plains of Yucatan. Between 250 and 900 CE, writing, religion, and art flourished. In certain respects, this era was the golden age for the Maya culture. This time was called the golden age for the Maya. What did we read that helps us understand why this era was called the golden age for the Maya? When I think of gold, I think about how it is a very valuable metal, and in turn, the golden age represents wealth and prosperity. However, during this time, writing, religion, and art really took off. These were signs that the Maya civilization was thriving and successful. Let's add this to our 3-column chart under Maya. Great job. I'm going to move forward and read another portion of today's text. Please listen carefully as I read aloud. The Maya were not ruled by a single ruler. The Maya lived in city-states scattered across considerable distances. Some of these city-states were larger than others. Each had a powerful lord who governed his own city and surrounding areas. The city-states both traded and fought with one another. Maya society was divided into classes with lords in the highest class. Well-educated priests were also among the noble or highest classes. Both kings and priests lived in palaces close to city centers. Powerful nobles usually lived in the largest houses. Craftsmen lived in smaller homes that were often further away from the city center. Farmers lived next to their fields that were even further away. Which groups of people were considered to be in the highest social class? Look back at the text to support your answer. The lords, well-educated priests were among the highest social class as well. That's similar to how we think of kings and queens as they rank in other civilizations throughout history and even today. The title of this section is A Culture Flourishes. Thinking about what you've learned in this section, what does the word flourishes mean? It means to be successful. Why would this section be titled A Culture Flourishes? Think about what we just analyzed about the era being called the Golden Age of the Maya. We learned how the Maya culture began to thrive and was successful. Take a minute to jot down evidence that the Maya civilization was flourishing during this time. Once again, we're taking a minute to think about evidence that shows that the Mayan civilization was flourishing during this time. Remember, flourishing means to be successful. There are many clues, but some of the most important are over 5 million people inhabited this area, and that is a lot of people for this time in history. This meant that the civilization had grown and expanded. The Maya had expanded so much that they developed a system of city-states that were governed by one powerful lord or ruler. Let's take a moment to add the highlighted information to our chart under Maya. Five million people inhabited this area. Now let's add the second one. They developed a system of city-states that were governed by one powerful lord. Great job on your chart. How is this similar and different from how states in the United States of America exist? Let's analyze that together. Some similarities you may think of are we are all part of a larger system and each state has its own governor. Also, The Maya also had one lord that ruled over each city-state. Some differences may be our governor doesn't rule alone and has lots of people to support making decisions. And lords had complete control over city-states. Now I'm going to read another section of today's text. Pyramids, temples, gods, and sacrifice. Maya city-states were centers of both government and religion. Each center had some unique architectural designs. However, all centers had stone pyramids and temples. Some of the pyramids served as burial monuments to honor dead kings. Temples occupied the top level of the pyramids, purposefully close to the heavens and the gods. These temples were reserved for rulers and priests. Pyramid temple complexes often surrounded a central plaza where public ceremonies and festivals took place. Religion was important to most aspects of Maya life. The Mayas' belief in gods and goddesses helped them explain the mystery of life itself. They believed that gods controlled everything. The gods were responsible for the rising and setting of the sun and the phases of the moon. They were certainly responsible for floods and droughts, as well as sickness and health. The Maya gave thanks for a bountiful harvest, a cured disease, or a victory in battle. They offered sacrifices or precious gifts to the gods. Sacrificial blood, both of animals and humans, was a common offering. Kings, sometimes called holy lords, were in charge of hosting sacrificial rituals and ceremonies. Toward the end of the Maya's golden age, the city-state Chichen Itza served as an important Maya center. Chichen Itza is located in an arid region of the northern Yucatan Peninsula. The Maya believed that Chichen Itza's well of sacrifice was the home of gods who controlled the rain. The Maya offered sacrifices to the rain gods. They did so because they believed that their fields would be watered. This well continued to serve as a sacrificial site for centuries after Chichen Itza's decline as a major Maya center. Learning about the religion of the Maya is very interesting and tells us a lot about the way they approached the other parts of their lives. What role do you think religion played in daily Maya life? Good thinking. The Maya believed in the influence of the gods and goddesses in everyday life. They built temples and offered sacrifices to please and thank gods and goddesses. Let's take a moment and add the highlighted portion of this information to our chart under Maya. So again, we've added to our chart, believed in the influence of gods and goddesses, and built temples and offered sacrifices. We learned that the Maya offered up sacrifices to the gods. What do you think the word sacrifice means in this text? They offered sacrifices or precious gifts to the gods. Sacrificial blood, both of animals and humans, was a common offering. It means to offer what one believes is a precious gift. The Mayas offered sacrificial blood of both animals and humans in hopes that the gods would bless them with many things like rain, good health, and a bountiful harvest. Again, let's take a moment to add the highlighted portion of this information to our chart under Maya. So we've added sacrifices and offered sacrificial blood of both animals and humans. The well of sacrifice. Why do you think the Maya believed it was important to offer sacrifices at Chichen Itza's well of sacrifice? They believed that this well was home to the gods who controlled the rain. Because this part of the Yucatan Peninsula was arid or very dry, the Maya believed their sacrifices to the gods would bring them the rain they needed to water their fields. Let's add the highlighted information to our chart under Maya. So we've added, this well was home to the gods, and Maya believed their sacrifices to the gods would bring them rain. Let's read some more. Trading from highlands to lowlands. Trade routes followed rivers, seas, and roads across the Maya region, connecting these indigenous people to one another. Cities were hubs of commerce where people shared ideas and traded goods. The Maya used a barter system for exchanging daily necessities. People in the lowlands traded food, cotton, and jaguar skins for coastal salt and dried fish. People across Mesoamerica used obsidian, a volcanic glass from the highlands, for both jewelry and tools. Wealthy Maya valued precious gemstones and the brightly colored feathers of the rainforest quetzal bird. What role did trade and commerce play in the Maya civilization? Trade connected people to one another. Commerce made it possible to share ideas and trade goods. Let's add this information that you see highlighted to our chart under Maya. So we've added, trade connected people, and commerce made it possible to share ideas and trade goods. Let's take a moment to review everything we've added to our chart under Maya in today's lesson. Your chart should have Golden Age, wealth and prosperity. 5 million people inhabited this area. They developed a system of city-states that were governed by one powerful lord, believed in the influence of gods and goddesses, built temples and offered sacrifices. The well of sacrifice was home to the gods, and Maya believed their sacrifices to the gods would bring them rain. Let's go through our guided practice. Take a few moments to collect your thoughts about all you've learned today. Read back through the notes you took on your chart. we talked about several things. Let's go back through to make sure you captured all of this very interesting information. It will come in handy as we continue through this unit. Writing, religion, and art flourished during the Golden Age. Over 5 million people living in this area. Developed system of city-state governed by one ruler. Believed in gods, goddesses, built temples to please gods and goddesses. Offered sacrifices as gifts to their gods in hopes of being blessed with rain, good health, and a bountiful harvest. Trade connected people. Commerce made it possible to share ideas and trade goods. Let's talk about today's independent practice. The big question we wanted to answer over the course of this lesson and the next lesson was, how did the Maya society adapt and thrive in such a large and diverse region? Based on what we have learned so far, what evidence do we have to support the idea this civilization was thriving? What about how they lived their daily lives would indicate this to be a true statement? Take some time to think about what we read and talked about today. Refer to your notes as well. Then write a letter to Desiree Charnay explaining this using all of the information we've learned over the years about how the Maya people lived. The letter should include a greeting, the body of the letter, and a closing. I really enjoyed learning these cool things about the Maya civilization with you today. Thank you for inviting me into your home. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson of the Tennessee's At Home Learning Series. Goodbye.